This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about the popular DISC assessment, which is a personality profiling tool that helps employers choose the best people for the best roles in their company, among other things. I mean, a DISC assessment can be used for, I imagine, a lot of different stuff, but we'll get into it. In studio with us today is Jamaal Trell, a.k.a. Coach Trell, the executive program leader of Limitless Leads Coaching and an expert at the DISC assessment. Coach Trell, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate that warm and welcoming introduction.
Yeah, first time experience here to the podcast. Excited to have you here. It looks like you brought your board game and lots of paraphernalia with you today.
Absolutely. Good businessman has paraphernalia and board games.
Yeah. We're in learning mode today.
That's right.
All right, I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the CEO of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents and attorneys. If you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for businesses, head over to our website at krukus.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses like yours. Link is in the podcast description.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help business owners create branding strategies to help evolve and elevate their brand.
And I'm a guest co-host. My name is Liliana Rojas. I am a property and casualty producer here in San Antonio at Hub International.
All right. Excited to have you here, Liliana.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, she's going to help us with our local outreach for the younger generation. I'm 55 already, if you can believe that, right? So
I wasn't going to out your age there,
Yeah.
Mark.
No, but this program, what do you call it, 30 under 30?
30 under 30. So it's 30 minutes with entrepreneurs that are under 30. So if you're an entrepreneur under 30, please reach out. I'd be happy to have you on the podcast, maybe. And then, just doing outreach for the youth. I know Coach Trell also gets himself involved with that. So
Just a little bit.
if you want to expand on that sometime soon. But yes, working with the younger audience would be
All
great.
right. Love it, too. We're trying to reach as many entrepreneurs in the San Antonio area as we can. And speaking of which, a quick reminder, follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video version of the show. You get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. Also on our website, you'll find a link to the next Mega Mixer that's coming up. The Let's Talk Business podcast is having another Mega Mixer coming up here in San Antonio on Thursday, March 27th from 5:30 to 8:30. We're actually expanding it. We were pretty much
Yes.
going till 8:30, 9 o'clock anyway.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
So we're going to kick it to all the way to 8:30. Tickets are on sale now for just $20. So it's a huge expo-style mixer with lots of networking. What we have found is that people really like this environment. It's very conducive to just networking, having conversations, and connecting with businesses that can help you get to where it is you're trying to get to. Vendor tables are going to be all over the place so you can chat it up with local businesses and take advantage of some great deals. There's going to be some light snacks and plenty of drinks to be had. As always, net proceeds from the event will be going to support multiple charities here in the San Antonio area, like CRIT, which I know you help out a lot with
Yep.
CRIT.
I'm on the advisory board with that, with Howie.
And then Discovery Camps as well. And then Got You Covered.
Yeah, that
is
was
another one.
that was a great one.
Yeah, it was. So net proceeds, of course, are going to support those charities. We're expecting to sell out again at this one. We're expecting about 300 people to show up at this one. It's going to be big. It's going to be over at the Aggie Event Park Event Center.
Yeah, it's a new venue this time. New venue, and that place is amazing. Lots
Yeah.
of room.
Yeah, plenty of room, plenty of parking. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. A quick shout out to Toned Homes AC and Remodeling for being a platinum sponsor for the upcoming Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer on March 27th. So he's the one who's done the AC at my house. Now, my house, I was actually the contractor on it, and I did the AC wrong. I'll just admit to it. So for years, we had a hard time keeping it cool, especially upstairs. Well, Tone came in, he made some slight modifications to it, and our home has been cool all summer long. Really, really impressed with the work that he did. He understands how to just kind of look at what needs to get done, tweak it, and then, of course, he uses great equipment. So from keeping San Antonio cool with expert AC services to transforming homes with their exceptional remodeling projects, they truly go above and beyond. So if you're looking to upgrade your home or need reliable air conditioning services like I did, be sure to check them out at tonedhomes.com. That's TONEDHOMES.com, or call them at 210-520-9200 and ask for Tone. Again, he's been a friend of mine for several years now and does great work. All right, so Jamaal, excited to have you on the show. Excited to dig into the disc assessment. I use it for all of my hiring, all of it, because I found it to be supremely valuable in helping clients choose the proper candidates for the proper roles. So this is really the angle in which I come the time approaching this, but I know that there's so much more that can be done with that. So give me a little bit about your background, how you ended up as kind of this expert in the disc assessment area.
Real quick, I won't take up too much of your time in explaining, but retired military was introduced to us maybe about 2014, 15 to some of the leadership as far as for taking disc assessments and learning how to really understand the people that work for you. And then with the understanding of learning the people that work for you, now the people that work with you. That's pretty much the concept that I took from it. In retiring from the military, learning that it's important to learn how to communicate with people from all walks of life, ethnicities, background, financial background, just different things. And the one thing that helps you understand that is understanding the person, understanding how they want to be communicated with, and also understanding how you want to be communicated with. So that way you can relay that information to that individual, because that's what makes it a solid team, a good team. And also makes a memorable person is sometimes you remember that one person. It was something about that person. What it was about him was you kind of gelled together, your synergy. It was because you understood how each other wanted to be communicated with. And that's important. And just using one of your examples with the entrepreneurs, something that you can do with them is you can also set up we have an entrepreneurial disc program. So if you have a young person that doesn't necessarily know what they want to do, but they're driven and they want to do something, they can take this entrepreneur report and it'll break down based on their personality assessment on what they actually like to do, what they want to do, and what they don't really care a lot to do, and starting off that entrepreneur program.
Well, that's a good place to kind of break in and talk about the DISC assessment. It's DISC. So roll through that real quick. Let us know which each of those components are, and we'll start there, and we'll just kind of build on that.
Absolutely. So D being dominance, results-oriented, sales executive, keep in mind, somebody who kind of owns the conversation. They want to make sure that they're kind of controlling everything that's going on, but they also feeding you the information at the same time. So influence, think about sociable. So you can be D, you can be I, you can be a combination of them both, like we laughed and joked about earlier, or 25% of each one of them, depending on what you need to do for that environment. S, steadiness, cooperative, being able to kind of go with the flow. Makes it, we know a lot of people tend to be more go with the flow versus the dominant, the over the top. You always have one or two in the room versus the 5 or 6 maybe the S's. And the C, conscientiousness, analytical, detail focus. So depending on maybe in insurance, if you're looking at numbers, it's a number game, they're detail focused. So those are some of the areas that you would look into, if that makes sense.
It's super important when fitting a dominant person into like if you're trying to fit them into a role where they're going to be looking at data and doing data transfer all day, it's not going to be a good fit. And whereas, a person who's really just wants to be at their computer and be left alone and pay attention to the numbers, more introverted, that's not going to be your dominant person. So this is why understanding the role of the company and then understanding the person and marrying those two together is super important.
Absolutely. And so you would even take it so much as to go back and look at the benchmark report for DISC, because that's something that we work with the HR department. And you'll sit down, the leadership or your team, the hiring officials, you'll sit down and figure out what's the right mix and match, the yin and the yang. We don't want to put oil and water over here. What exactly do we need to do for chemistry and balance? Because everything's better with balance. Everything's good with a little bit of moderation, so we get a little bit of that dominant, but not a lot of it, to kind of steer but not take over the work environment. So with that benchmark interview report, you can find somebody whose their personality, you may say, you know what, I could use a lot more Tonys and a lot less Steves. So you benchmark Tony, have them take that report, and then if you're hiring for a particular position for more Tonys, then you're going to get more Tonys in that area. Now, Steve might be great, like you said, at computers or tech or something along those lines. So then you'll get more Steves to put into that department. So it just allows you to kind of mix and match. Or if you were playing pickup basketball, go to the park and pick your team, if that makes any sense. So that's what the benchmark and interview report does.
And how often do you do the benchmark assessments for these employees? Because, as people, we always evolve. We're always going to evolve, and we're going to pick up different skills, and we're going to be better at something that we weren't before because we're consciously learning all the time. So how often is it? How often do you do the benchmark, and then the employees themselves as well?
Me personally, how often do I do it?
Yeah, with your coaching program.
So for me, so initially once I do the assessment, so every 6 months, right, I may do something that's self-assessment, follow up, depending on what my goals and my objectives are. Am I on the trajectory to meet those goals? And if not, what did I deviate from the plan? And then how do I get back on track? As for a company, again, finding out what the objectives are and the goals. Once we write down the map of how we're going to get to that, then we can go with the follow-up assessments. And that's in the debriefs, that's in the follow-ups. And with the company, so we'll scale that down on the map and how we want to meet those points as far as we want to follow up. So you can set that for quarterly. You can set that for monthly. It's completely up to you. How fast do you want to track the data, or how soon do you want the feedback to see if that information is being tracked and if it's on the right target. So it just depends, but you want to follow up is the objective. And that way you can make sure that with the information that you're teaching them or that you're trying to instill in them, they're actually retaining that information and they're actually being productive at the position as well. So, yeah, it's just about the follow-up. Just continuously follow up. I don't think you can go wrong with following up. Over-communicating is something that I think we're kind of going away from versus not communicating enough. So
It's true. How about with you, Mark, for your employees, how often do you check that benchmark with them for the disc?
I don't. So we do it one time when they're coming in, kind of see how they fit. I hadn't really considered doing it, as a follow-up down the
Quarterly.
road to kind of see.
I think that's a great idea to do.
Are
it
people
quarterly.
changing and whatnot? But we use it certainly when filling roles for clients.
So absolutely, just not to cut you off, my apologies. And that's where a lot of times disc gets a bad name because when I speak to people, oh yeah, I'm familiar with it, but it didn't help. Well, it's a guide. That's where the coach comes into play to help you follow up, to hold you accountable, to make sure that you're checking those ticks along the way, right? So you have to have the follow up because what's your checks and balances? So if you give the information and then that's just it, you're assuming or you're hoping that they're doing a great job at whatever it is they're doing. So you have to go back and say, okay, let's get a little bit far. And that not only helps the company, but it also helps the person as well because if you identify that the person may not have communicated effectively in a certain way and you don't go back to give them that follow-up and that feedback, then how are they supposed to know if they're continuously doing the right thing or the wrong thing? You know what I mean? If you put on your left shoe on your right foot, that's what you've been doing. You don't know what's incorrect. It may feel uncomfortable, but you're just going to continue doing what you self-taught yourself. Until somebody says, hey, that shoe goes on that foot, that shoe goes on that foot. It'll be more productive if you put it that way. Now you can walk, run a little bit faster, and be a little bit more comfortable at the same time.
So with your coaching, like how do you do, once people take the DISC assessment, then what? What do you do with your coaching? How do you help them? Like you were mentioning CEOs are probably more of like a C or a D. How are they going to communicate with their I and their S salespeople?
Well, like everything else, you and I sit down, we're talking about your company. We talk about what you want. We identify your problems. We figure out the program that works best for you, your situation. And then we kind of go from there. And then again, it goes back to if it's identified that they aren't communicating with their folks, this right here, this leadership game communication edition that we have right here, great workshop. We can
This is a test.
This is awesome. This is
Starts
amazing.
opening it. All right, we're doing this right now.
Exactly. So we can identify without personally calling out any individuals because no one likes to be called out. But this way we can sit down and have a conversation. What's the climate? Is it communication? Is it leadership? Is it lack of? And once we identify that, we can tailor this communication game. This is just one of many tools. I'm just using this one. Everyone likes board games, right? Yeah. So you can use this tool to communicate in a fun environment, less threatening. So that way we can talk about the lack of communication at the office and the lack of leadership that the boss may or may not have, right? Because that's what we're talking about is sometimes in this day and age, it may be the boss with the old way of thinking of let's just get it done because we need to get it done versus explaining and understanding the people that works for them. Hey, sometimes people need to be communicated with, a little bit of understanding. And that's where the coach comes into play. One of my favorite shows is Billions because the boss is taking care of the job. And if you get a coach there, the coach can kind of take care of the morale and the personality and the personnel. And in that way, you won't necessarily, mix and match the two. So you can make sure the boss is taken care of. You can also make sure that the people in the job is being taken care of.
Yeah, so they have an outlet to a
Exactly.
pressure relief valve.
Exactly.
Well, we're talking about company culture, but also when you're marrying a particular, applicant to a role, like in sales, for example, if somebody's going into a sales role, where should they be in the DISC assessment, in your opinion?
It's a great question. So we have a sales impact report, also DISC version, so that way that person can take that assessment, and then it'll explain to them, this is where you currently are, and then you being the boss or whoever's in charge, this is where we need you to be, and this is how you can go about doing it. Here's a detailed roadmap, and then this is where the coach also comes in, again, with the accountability piece. And it won't just be singling out that one individual. This also can be done during the hiring process. So that way, before the person comes on board, you already know what type of person that you're receiving. You know mentally, not physically, what they're capable of.
Well, wouldn't that influence your decision-making process in the hiring? Because I think it should, just so you know. I think that if like I'm hiring a sales rep, I'm not going to look for the C or the S.
Right.
I'm looking for the D and the I, right? That's what I'm going to do
Absolutely.
in my screening.
So one thing you can think about, right? Because you just said what you're looking for. And so if you're hiring with someone, whatever it is that you find on that paper, you still have to get that individual person in the office. They may have on paper the words that meet whatever it is, your satisfaction that you're looking for. And if you get that person there, like all the memes go around now saying the person said they were qualified and they get there and they aren't qualified.
And you lied on your resume.
Right, and you lied on your resume. ChatGPT is a heck of a
Right.
thing right now. So if they make it through that part and they don't know, if you look in your best interest, and I know we're talking about CEOs and business folks, but if your best interest is to look into building those people, you're going to have to teach them something new anyway. So you're going to have to figure out, like you just said, whatever the pick of the pool is of who you want to hire, that's completely up to you. We can help you once they get in the door as far as from making them a better and more productive customer that you have. So the benchmark, that's what you'll use prior to, and that's what you'll sit down with the HR department. The sales, that'll be something if you have a team that needs improvement or you're trying to identify the actual sales leader and improve that individual that's in charge. Because sometimes, like you just mentioned earlier, some people may get a job, but they may hit their threshold, that ceiling where they just aren't progressing anymore. And then this may be a direct reflection of your leadership. This report can come in and say, hey, this is now how you engage this individual to be more motivated, to be more dedicated. This person has that within them, but you didn't know how to pull it out of them. This is where Coach Trell comes in and says, I got you. That person's a really motivated person. Let's also work on your skills at the same time, because let's just get it honestly. If you're the boss and people aren't necessarily performing up to their standards, then it's probably something that you're not doing correctly as well. So instead of pointing the finger at other people, we can come in and help the team as a whole. And that's where the team impact executive report comes in and talks about the leadership, the functionality of the team, and how we can put all those pieces together and make your team more thriving in 2025.
But coming back to if you're going to hire for a sales role, what on the DISC assessment, what should the HR department be looking for in that hiring process?
Is there a specific verbiage or something that you want me to say in particular? Because the DISC report, excuse me, once the feedback from that report, dominance, influence, and they'll show their strong points. Dominance in motivating people to sell, not necessarily an eye in closing the deals. So at some point, you're not going to get the complete package that you're looking for, but that's where that report comes in to build that team. So it's not to eliminate anyone; it's looking to build and that more of that whole person concept.
It's interesting because how I've seen it used is more in that you're looking to not necessarily eliminate, but you're looking to identify the people that have the personality traits, they're stronger in them for that particular role, such as dominance and influence when it comes to
Absolutely.
sales roles.
We're saying the same thing. It's just it's about perspective. So if you're saying you're not trying to eliminate, you're trying to select, it's semantics that somebody's not getting picked. So whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to find that person, you're going to hire them. Once they get hired, now that's not necessarily saying if they cap out because they've done everything that they can do, they've exhausted everything, their talents, you still want to build and expand on those people, and this will be how to build onto those folks. So, and it might be just a difference of a mindset of a coach explaining it to you, saying that, well, if you want to eliminate some folks, this is how you pick your strongest people and leave your weakest people behind. Again, it's all about perspective. So for me, I'm saying these people may have this. I'm retired military, so my primary would be a D and an S. But I've had to work with many people over the last 24 years. But at some point, I had to incorporate the D, the I, the S, and the C, right? In order for me to continue to be successful and my team to be successful. So if you're looking to, again, it's about wordplay. If you're looking to eliminate, you're still eliminating people because you're picking the 2 best folks out of there. You're just using nicer words.
Right, and best for the role, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. This
absolutely.
is still a versatile application.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not the deciding or determining
exactly.
factor.
Right.
Right. So I work in sales. So I'm the salesperson he's probably thinking of. But most of the salespeople on my team are I's, D's, and we even work in pairs because some people are more C's and S's.
Right.
But so since I work in sales, I think pretty much everyone's a salesperson, incling the entrepreneurs that have now started their own business. They're selling themselves.
yes.
Right.
A C
right.
is selling themselves. Like,
Right.
I know what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
able, like a CFO would probably be a C or an S. I know how to analyze these statistics or these financials. I know what I'm doing, but that's still selling yourself. So how does a C, an S, or maybe even a D sell themselves, and how do they work with the other?
Okay, so you're asking me for a whole program, right? So the first step is we would identify that they need the help.
Gotcha.
Once we identified the need to help, then we would sit down and come up with a program. It's nothing for me to say off the top of my head. This is exactly what we'll do. We'll push B, C, and D,
Gotcha.
and they'll be great in 35 days. This is reality. It doesn't work that way. We identify the problem. You contact me, and what we do is we'll sit down, and this is how we'll get that person to that position or get you somebody else into that position.
Okay.
Using each one of those reports. So, yeah, absolutely. Again,
So I
we
guess
just-
on a higher level, like, so I'm an I, but I work with a lot of C's because the CFOs of construction companies or, schools, that's who I reach out to. What are some of the pitfalls you see with like I's trying to reach out to C's or D's and S's? Like, what are some of the things you see people fall into?
So the pitfall would be kind of like what we're doing. We understand that there's a gap, and so what we're doing is trying to bridge that gap with the communication or the lack thereof. So that's when it wouldn't be the one person. We would do a workshop, so everybody would get the briefing, everybody would get the information, everybody would understand that, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to start implementing this program here at work. So this right here, what you have is you can put these outside your cubicle. It says, as a D, here is how we connect. So this is, we talked about board games, and this is making it simplified to the simplest thing. You put this outside your cubicle. Now that person that's a D and a C and an I, when you walk up there, it says, this is how I communicate with you as a D, with you as an I, with you as an S, and you as a C. Now, if everybody in the workplace has this, now we have open communication. Now, if somebody doesn't want to learn how to communicate or advance, then that means we probably have bigger issues there. It's not just that. So this can help us in the interim for what you're talking about.
Well, let's roll through one of these. things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a D, right, which is dominant personality.
Are
which
you a D?
I would say so. Yeah.
All right. And so here we have right
DI,
here
I
is
think.
the style
I'm an ID.
blend. Right here, we have the style blends. So as an influencer, as a challenger, and so it matches in pairs, which ones would be two of the ones to go together right there. So again, what we're doing is we're trying to build the team. We're not necessarily trying to, nick smocks and kick somebody out of the team. It depends on what the conversation is and what we're having. So if that's what
Right.
we're trying to do, we're trying to build it. So logical thinkers, you would throw your C's and D's in the same area. So different things like that. So
D has to be exceptionally sensitive to how they communicate because they're dominant,
Yes.
right? We
Yes.
got to take a breath, right, before we get into stuff. Like it says here for communicating with an S, right? Which S is for what, sissy? What is S?
Oh,
steadiness.
Steadiness. Oh, sorry.
no. Showing our point
Human
right here.
resources specialist.
So avoid being confrontational, right? This is how
Right.
a D is supposed to communicate with an S.
Right.
Avoid being confrontational.
Right.
Recognize their great work. Use a friendly conversational tone. be relaxed in your approach.
Right. So
That can be difficult
It
for a D
can.
to do.
Yes,
it
be
can, it
relaxed.
can,
That
it
was a
can.
key word, right?
Right,
It was. So keep case in point. When I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to be a little bit more specific,"
Right.
Because me
That's
being
the
a D,
C, right?
I'm the D. So you're saying that statement, and I'm not understanding what you're saying. So and you keep trying to go there, and so in real time, I'm like, "Hey, sir."
Also, we're having a struggle, and I didn't even realize it.
right.
Yeah, that was a great example right
I
there.
yeah.
keep trying
so-
to get to where I need to go.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're like,
let me help you understand what you're trying to say. And you're like,
I don't need help.
I don't-
understanding what I'm trying to say. I know what I'm trying to say. I just don't want
Right.
to say it how you want me to say it.
right. So
I
in
like
real
this.
time,
Yeah, this is
so,
fun.
So to allow a little bit of to go back and forth to see the frustration in real time is we're sitting here like, what are you talking about? So that's how some of that stuff can be done. But anyway, so what we would do is before any of this stuff happens, we would have the workshop. We would go through what it is, the when, what, where, why, and the when. We would go through all of these documents, and everybody would understand. And everybody would take the assessment. It wouldn't just single people out to take the assessment. And so once everybody takes the assessment, then this is when we can do a debrief. Now the debrief can start with leadership. However, it can be communicated, negotiated, however you want to go about doing that. And then once we go through the debriefing, then we can talk about doing it with we can go from there as how we want to go through things. So it wouldn't just be a random scenario.
I'm sitting here thinking, I can't help it. 'Cause I'm thinking, well, which one of these is the best one? So it's got to be the D. I'm just saying.
You just want the
I
guy
don't
in the
think
blue
so. I
shot
think
to
I's
look
pretty
at
good.
everything. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
that's-
where are you at on this? Do you know where you're at?
Honestly, I mean, it's been a while since I've done this, probably a few years back.
Right.
So I know I've definitely changed, but I would definitely say I'm probably 25% of each one of them.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a little bit of everything here, especially, I mean, the analytical part, as a business owner, you kind of have to. That's something that you
I don't like that.
evolve
for
into that
myself.
position. I don't like it either, but you have to.
So what happens is you tend to sway depending on the situation.
Right.
And then, like, if it's something personal, like I want to make sure somebody's at work doing X, when you're like, I want D's.
Right.
But the D's are going to come in, and then nobody's coming back to work on Tuesday. So, I mean, so maybe a great idea. It might not necessarily be lucrative for the business. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
just-
I mean, definitely a D because I'm results oriented and I'm very competitive
Right.
too. But I also know when there's a time to back up, a time to communicate
Right.
definitely to certain people.
and that's where I would come in to say, hey, sir.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be on
So
the
is there
receiving
like
end.
a personal style and then like an adapted style? Like, can you have?
There is, and then once you go through the actual assessment, it breaks down to 3 phases. The way the mirror, you see yourself, people see you. Yeah. Real,
You think you look
exactly,
like this, but
exactly.
honestly,
But you don't.
Yeah, you have lipstick on.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get to see the true versions, 3 different versions, and it breaks it down. It's really worth doing it. And again, some of the biggest things with DISC that you hear about is that it just gets the assessment and that's it. I mean, because you can take the assessment and go over it yourself, but you're the one.
Yeah. Like, I don't do that.
Right.
Yes. Get very defensive.
Right. So it's just something to think about. And then everything else is all in the briefing, right? So depending on who's briefing you on the disc and who's giving you the feedback, because 2 people's personalities can clash. If you get 2 D's in the room, then and there's no, the lack of a better word, I guess, understanding of when to ease up off the throttle, because some people will see blood and just keep going. And that's when you have to be able to say, hey, tone it down a little bit, kind of go back and forth.
So there's you married,
Yes,
Jamaal? How long have you been married?
26 years.
Okay. So
Congratulations.
you know a little bit about marriage. All right. So there's this thing called love languages.
The 5
Oh, yeah.
languages.
I teach that as well.
Super important, right, when it comes to relationships. And this was like key for my wife and I. We've been married 36 years, right? So it's like when she realized that I wasn't just trying to, people act out the way that they want to be treated, I think, like when it comes to love languages, right? Like if somebody's super affectionate, they're going to be touchy-feely all the time, right? That doesn't necessarily, if somebody else is like, hey, they like gifts, you know what I mean? So that's super helpful information that everybody should know getting involved in a relationship. And I think the DISC assessment as well helps in marriages too.
Great point. So, with Valentine's Day shortly coming around the corner.
Oh yeah.
This is important.
Yeah. So one of the things so a performance coach is kind of like having a personal trainer for every aspect of your life, right? So one of the things I was told coming into the business is you need to have one specific niche, just one area, and only focus on one area. It doesn't seem to work out because it's hard enough to get trust from people, and once you get the trust, I mean, they're gonna kind of be like, well, why can't you help me with this, or why can't you help me with that? But with Valentine's Day coming up, they have the redisc. So redisc is for couples in relationships because communication can be an issue sometimes. Sometimes if you're married or if you have a spouse or if you have a kid, you know, you may look at that kid and be like, you really act like your dad's. You know what I mean? Or you really act like your mom's side of the family. Man, I can't stand them. But in actuality is if you have them take the DISC assessment as well, and then now everybody in the family learns how to communicate with each other because you have these things that they say, first kid, second kid, third kid, they act a certain way, whatever the case may be. But if you actually understand how your kid wants to be communicated with and you exchange that information vice versa, your kid can understand how to communicate with you. That opens up communications in the household. And then with the redisc, it's for couples. They basically learn each other's disc style. So that way, like you just mentioned with the love languages, you know, they may be saying, I like this. And you're like, well, I'm doing that. And they're just not receiving it because of maybe some trauma or just your relationship. And you've actually tried to turn the corner and you tried to make a difference and they just aren't seeing it. Well, everybody, the buzzword is therapy, but if you learn how to communicate with one another, that would probably be the first step and understand how they want to be communicated with. So you can take that assessment, the spouses or partners. And then that way, I sit down with both of you and then, you know, it's all confidential. You don't have to worry about me putting it on the tick of the talk or nothing like that. But you can learn how each other wants to be communicated with, and you also learn their love language and or style at the same time. So
I dig all that stuff, especially, so I'm a twin, and I'm the younger twin. I'm an ID, and my older sister, by a minute, and yes, it still counts, is CS. So we're completely opposite types, but when I'm communicating to her or to people that are also CS, I have to put in my mind, I'm just talking, my twin sister's name's Olivia. I'm just talking to Olivia. So how would I talk to Olivia? And it's a completely different person. So another CS could walk into the room, and in my mind, it's like, okay, so how does Olivia talk? And how does she communicate? And how would I communicate with that? Is like having people in mind a helpful way to communicate, or what are some other things that you see are helpful?
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff. I'll say you need to be happy with yourself. You need to learn what you like. You need to learn how you want to be treated, how you want to be communicated with. Even on the airplane, they say put your mask on first before you try to help someone else. So if you're trying to help somebody and you're trying to do something else and you haven't helped yourself yet, I think that's the first problem.
Gotcha.
So for me, I wouldn't give any advice on that. I'm honestly wholeheartedly believe, like they'll say happy wife, happy life and all, happy house, happy spouse, whatever it is that works for you and rhymes. But you really need to make sure that you get in touch with yourself and you're happy with yourself and who you are.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to have these types of tools, like the DISC assessment, knowing your love language. In marketing, we use what's called the VAL system. And that teaches us when we're talking to our clients to create these branding strategies to understand and know who their targeted audience is and what their buyer behaviors are. Right. And so that's a tool also that helps with the communication and the marketing strategy. So we have all these tools in place to help us become effective entrepreneurs. But when it all boils down to it, it's communication and understanding people because, like that quote says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And all that goes into communication.
It does.
And I like the shortcut sheets to your point. It's like this one here is as a D, here's how to connect with, so forth, right? And I think this is a helpful guide.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I'm probably going to steal that after the end of the podcast.
Maxwell.
I might just be like, oh, no, that slide's missing. I'm sorry. I don't know where it went.
But this is a great starting point, right? Because you can kind of understand, hey, if you're talking to somebody who you know is an I, just because of, like, you know how to identify the CS, right? then once you kind of know one of them, then you can kind of quickly pick up if you run into another one. Oh, there's another one.
Oh my gosh, got another one.
I
know
gotta
what to
watch
do.
what I say about this one, right? Let's see. I gotta use a friendly conversational approach when I'm talking to the S, because they're more of the sissy brand. No, I'm kidding.
Except for when he talks to the host.
Yeah. Well, so like for you, for a D, if I was, for insurance, you kind of want to know the bottom line.
Right.
It's like, here's the top
Get to
3
the
things.
point.
Yeah.
Here's the
Right.
top
Point,
3
no
things
faking.
you need to know. I don't have to explain every single little detail about this policy. This is what you have to look at, and this is how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah, so you think about the different careers where that matters, i.e. Realtors. If you're buying a home, and if you do a DISC assessment, now your realtor knows how to engage with you. As versus you being an a-hole, just give me the numbers. You know what I mean? Yeah. It eliminates all of that. It's just communication. It's just being good people, learning how to communicate with somebody. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I don't know why, it's...
They should teach this in elementary school.
They should.
Yeah.
They should.
I mean, the subject matter is not difficult, and
Right.
I think elementary school kids could pick it up, and it would probably like decrease the amount of tension,
Yeah.
and then they would have it to build on for the rest of their scholastic endeavors.
Right, and just to tap on the entrepreneur report, and that's why it's important. We kind of discussed that out in the lobby. Is you with kids, student and career report, you want to do those things early. The sooner the better. You're not focusing on football games and extracurricular activities and sports. There's other way to build teamwork, and leadership, not just sports, right? And it's also ways to build their communication skills and how they're going to operate with other folks out there, in the world. And I think this is something that they should look into. So student career report and entrepreneur report, you should definitely start those early because, like you said, by the time you get to college and you're trying to figure out what you want to do and you're already $80,000 in debt and you have to get out and find another job,
Right, and so that's kind of why I decided to get into part of this was I'm seeing my friends who, I went to St. Mary's, and they're doing an entrepreneurship degree, which is fascinating and interesting, but now you're paying at least 20 to 30 grand a year to learn how to become an entrepreneur. You're now 80 to 120 grand in debt, and you have no business and tons of debt, and maybe you have an idea, but you have no capital, and you just spent all the capital you could have had on learning it. I mean, I think there's some ways that you can kind of get a head start on that. The high school I went to had an incubator program. So it was Shark Tank in real life, and they gave real money up to 10 grand. And some of those students are like, yeah, I don't need to go to college. I've already got my business. It's already been started. So starting it early, I think, is
And you
awesome.
see it actually more now than ever. Like my son, he started his business when he was in elementary. And that was back then, everybody loved comic books. And so they were drawing comics books. So I showed him how to print the template. And he sold those templates for 25 cents a book so they can make their own. And it's just like building those skill sets. They don't know exactly what they're going to do with it, but at least they have the foundation.
Absolutely.
And I think it's we have so many programs in our city right now. A lot of our city officials have, given the green light to all these entrepreneurship programs because they see the value.
Right.
And something I would say, something I'm really proud of San Antonio is there's this thing called Students and Startups. So it's an organization that will pay for students kind of like stipend, and then what is it? A startup doesn't have to pay for that intern. They get essentially kind of like a free intern. And Students and Startups, the students still get paid for an internship. They still get that experience. In fact, my twin sister is working at one right now, one that I would like to interview. So if they ever watch this podcast, coming after you. But there are programs in San Antonio that do that, but it's not always advertised well. So you'll get a lot of
Marketing is a big thing. So.
marketing is a really big thing. And so the Evolve firm,
Absolutely.
San Antonio could use that. But
What about, is this in schools at all? Like elementary schools? Is this?
I haven't, in San Antonio, I haven't seen it. I've worked with a few principals out here. I've been trying to get into the schools so that way I can start with the staff. And so that way we can help them kind of get a little bit more structured. A lot of I got a few relatives that are teachers, and some of the common themes you hear is just, some of the bigger issues is the teachers that have been teaching for 20, 30 years, and then the younger teachers. Just like in every other field, there's an issue. There's an age gap. There's a bridge gap. And I think that program would probably help some of that because, again, it just goes back to the communication. I know, a lot of older parents are probably looking at them like, I got kids your age. And you probably have issues with your kids as well because of the communication piece. And if you learn how to communicate with that younger demographic, like you just said, every S and C you bump into, reminds me of my kid. So now I'm going to make the assertive effort to communicate better, to teach better, to be a better employee and a better mentor at work. So again, so if you look at it in totality, it just starts with communication. But yeah, so that's my goal, is to try to get it within the school system and help the staff that way. And then you can also introduce the entrepreneur and the student reports to the schools as well while you're there. One shot, one kill, get everybody right there in one space.
So what's the stumbling block? What's keeping you out of the school system?
So for me, we kind of talked earlier, so just recently getting up to par with a CRM. I've been to San Antonio for the last 3 years, running around to Chamber of Commerce meetings. I'm a part of the Pearl Rotary, so we do a lot of work out there as well. But it's just networking and, just meeting people and just being given an opportunity is really what it is, not to sugarcoat it. You can go to these places and meet people, but you got to be given an opportunity.
It sounds like a workshop for teachers would be maybe a good spot. You know what I mean? Something fun for the teachers to go to, because that way they can understand, okay, this is what this is, and here's the benefits of it. If they don't already know about it, which they
you
probably
got to give them a
don't.
taste.
Yeah.
Well, and one great event I went to, and this is completely like supporting you guys, was the Business Professionals of San Antonio. You guys hosted it. It was fantastic. I think we had over 200 people. And so the place was completely packed with people just trying to network. I found that myself of like, what are good associations to join and network with and volunteer at? But I think you have to be in places where people's heart's at. So like with your volunteer experience, like, if homelessness is something that you feel very passionate towards, volunteering with homelessness organizations, and through there you'll get opportunities as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you were talking about how you just rebranded.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
absolutely.
now you got your website. I mean, what other marketing tools do you have already set up that you're marketing your services?
So I'm on Connect. I'm on all the social platforms. Just increased my posting and my social
All
media
right, you got
presence
it.
across the board.
What do you find the most challenging with social media for your industry?
Engagement, because on social media right now, so the demographic that I will be hoping they want to kind of work and prepare themselves to be a better version of themselves, maybe doing certain challenges on social media or may use it as an outlet, not necessarily as something to kind of network and go through for the posting, for the content piece. And each platform depends, right? So each one varies. So you have to be doing something trendy on one platform so doing things like a car ride down the street, nice song in the background, and maybe putting some thoughtful words on the screen. Like that's really popular on some platforms. LinkedIn is kind of oversaturated with everybody's out there networking and doing the same thing. But so I just got accredited through the Better Business Bureau. So some of the clients that I have, I asked them for a testimonial, so they'll put one on there, do a video testimonial, place that on the website. Marketing is everywhere.
So, do you know Alan Utley? He's one of the co-hosts on this show. He does My Coach Next Door.
Okay.
You got to look him up on Instagram or TikTok, whichever one. I think he's probably on. I don't really see him as much on LinkedIn, but I'm not on LinkedIn too much. My team handles all that for me. But My Coach Next Door, his name is Alan Utley, Utley. He does this thing where he's doing conversations with the camera. So he sets it up in his car usually, and he's got this whole series on toxic bosses, right, that he does. So if you can put out content that packages this type of stuff in a consumable way for folks, that they see it, they can relate to it, then you're going to get that following that way. They're going to get the engagement that you're looking for. But it's just, people follow people, not data, not information. So,
right.
If you're personalizing stuff out there, you getting in front of the camera, putting out content, and then just basically giving your entire whatever, just put it in videos, short videos, and just kind of consistently put it out there. Alan's definitely one who models it extremely well.
So that's one of my areas I lack in. After being in the military for so long, you're private. You don't put your information out there, and so now it's almost like taboo to take a video or something and just
Yeah,
if that
you
makes
kinda
any
have
sense.
to.
So that's my issue that I'm working on to overcome in 2025. So yeah, so I definitely understand that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're selling yourself like
Oh yeah,
you were saying earlier.
absolutely.
So
We're all a work in progress.
that works. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's a salesperson, whether they believe it or not.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Absolutely.
And then you're coming to our networking mixer, Let's Talk Business podcast networking mixer happening soon. So you're going to register for that.
Absolutely.
That's true.
So the disc assessment. Let's just back up just a little bit on like, is it something that's been around a while?
Yes, it has. It's been a while. Been around. So you have different versions out there, and that's something that also we were talking about. You have the Myers-Briggs. You have so many different versions out there. So that's one of the other things as far as drawing people to the DISC assessment, because now emotional intelligence is now a big thing. And I know some companies are working on trying to converge the two. So it just depends on, like you just said, your marketing and how you're promoting and marketing what's out there. So yeah, it's been around for over 60 years, and it's just something that you have to stay up to speed with
Right, but it has clout behind it, right?
It
It's got
does, absolutely.
It's got science behind it.
Absolutely.
and, I mean, it's
Methodology, science, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like something new wave
No.
that's been
Yeah,
around
it's
for
not
10
some
minutes.
cool new funky thing.
No, absolutely. It's not like CrossFit or anything like that.
All right, and so peer advisory groups.
Absolutely.
So is this something that you're involved with?
Yeah, so peer advisory groups, something else we were discussing is basically getting 6 to 8 people together. It's not like the social networking groups, but it kind of is. It's just more or less holding each other accountable. So having somebody different from each career field or each profession, and having a group of 6 to 8 solid people to just hold each other accountable. Kind of like the new year, everybody's starting out with fitness again, and it kind of trickles off towards February, March. So the same thing. Everybody wants to start off the new year doing something positive, but this is a way to hold each other accountable. And then for me, it just will be me coaching and hosting the group, providing guided discussions, and the real value will come from the actual group itself. I would just be the one, networking and as far as the spearheading everything, the content, and then, again, just setting everything up. So
that's what part of your service is.
Absolutely.
Setting up peer advisory groups.
Yes.
I see.
So, and then hosting them as well. And then, so the intent behind it is depending on the groups. And if each person had a location that they wanted to go to different, meet once a month and just kind of change the setting and the environment, get a chance to show us your world. Think some of the things that you're into, some of the things that you like. So it just opens it up completely. You're just kind of sharing and just holding everybody accountable. So
How many of these do you have going on now?
right now I have 2. The goal is to have 3 each quarter. So right now I have 2, looking to get 1 more between 6 to 8 before the end of March. And then after that, we'll go back and negotiate if they want to go longer, shorter, or something like that. Because sometimes also being in a group, that group can hinder you if you're around each other for too long and you aren't necessarily growing. So just different things to keep in mind as well. So
How are you marketing that service?
through my website, realorlive.org. I'm also marketing that through, what's the platform? It's Eventbrite. Also marketing that through Eventbrite, and also marketing that through WhatsApp and their Meta platform.
Is that a paid service?
Yes.
What's it cost?
For the peer group. So right now, we have 2 options: 3 months, like we mentioned, the once a quarter. And if you want to extend it, it goes 6 months. It depends on who it actually is that's signing up for the group. So it won't be necessarily a flat rate. It'll be based on the individuals, because I don't want it to be overpriced. I don't want it to be become a thing because it's so much money. People are happy to be a part of it. Just the actual people, we have a conversation of what they're trying to get out of it, and then we can make sure everything is good for both parties.
How are the peers selected?
We have once they apply, we have a consultation. We'll go through a question and answer process, and if this is something that works out for both parties based on the questions and answers, then we'll go through a selection period from there. And then hopefully, depends on the location, because I want to have one location in April that we can constantly stay there and not rotate out of. Then depends on also if people want to transportation, because some people don't like to meet in person. Some people only want to do the online thing, and the value added would be for people to meet in person. So
I'm just curious how you would put a group like that together. Is it around a topic? Like it's going to be around C-suite leadership, and then you have C-suite leaders that say, hey,
yeah, so based on the group, absolutely. So based on the group. So if we said the one group was C-suite leadership, so then it would be based on, again, come up with the template for the duration. So if we're saying 3 months or we're saying 6 months, I'll come up with the template, how the topics, and in each one, when we meet, it'll be guided discussion. So basically, hey, here's the information, provide details, send it out prior to when people come back. And then I would meet with those individuals twice a week. And then based on the 6 to 8, if they wanted to meet any more than once a month, then it would just be meeting once a month. But I would still be able to provide that coaching. So if any issues come up within the group, everything's topics, because that's what be the intent, is having somebody for you to be there and you don't have anyone to share that stuff with. It's kind of get that stuff off of your chest and bring it to the group. And then if you need additional coaching, that's where I come into play at, and I would provide additional coaching throughout the week.
So what are some of the positive results you've seen from like the peer advisory groups or from the training? Like what are some of your good success stories?
So positive from peer advisory groups, the positive, again, is not only networking, but people just having a system of people that they can support them, a support system. Just like going to the gym, right? People have workout buddies. The good thing about the peer advisory group is if you and your workout buddy get into it and you can't figure out why you're not friends anymore, we can go over the communication aspects of it, the disc part of it, and we can figure out how to keep everybody on track and keep moving forward, right? So that's, again, more learning, more group learning, and then it's from the people that's your peers.
Gotcha.
So like he mentioned C-suite, so say if one C-suite person has an issue and another one has an issue, they're not going to talk to anybody at work about it. They call, this person who can go through and share similar issues, stuff like that. So again, providing that safe place. And everyone signs a contract and everything's confidentiality, so there wouldn't be any issues with that.
I can see that being a thing on C-suite. It seems like LinkedIn would be a great place to market that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Peer groups for C-suite executives, for oil and gas industry, or for tech or whatever. If you kind of went by industry, seems like you clump them together. And then it's also a networking group.
Yeah, absolutely. So not just C-suite, small business owners, young entrepreneurs, because they all need to learn that concept as well. So what better way to learn it now as you're progressing through the ranks versus when you get there. So the quicker you arm them with that type of information and how to network and get together. Because one of the things you realize is C-suites, they more collab. Small business owners, it's more competition.
Right.
So, it's more money in the collaboration. So if we help each other out, each one teach one, we bring each other up, we all can do it together versus trying to...
Well, there's synergy in entrepreneurship as well. So if you have, like Blue Collar Connect is a great example of synergy amongst, blue collar businesses that are coming together and they support each other and then they do amazing things.
Right.
So I can see where that would be helpful too. But you're talking about leadership now. You're talking about running your business, creating culture and things like that. Is that kind of where you stay focused in these peer advisory groups?
Again, it just depends on the personnel. So it won't be a blanket thing. And again, I'm only mentioning the young entrepreneurs and the small business owners because that's what we talked about. And if they, like a lot of times they may have a mentor or they may have somebody that's helping them, but having a group of their peers and helping them. So a lot of places different. They do is they have, again, you have the Chamber of Commerce. They'll go, they'll meet up, whatever they do there, but then again, it goes back to the follow-up. So that's where the accountability comes into play is we introduce you to the information that we give it to you, but who's following up to make sure you're doing X, Y, and Z before you either lose X amount of money or before you get in some trouble financially or whatever that you shouldn't have to. You got somebody guiding you along the way. So that's more or less it's trying to provide guides.
So the two peer groups you have going on now, give us an example of one of them. Like, what is it?
They're two small business groups. One is with a group of realtors, and another one is it's a mixed group with teachers, some academic staff members, different schools though, not the same schools. So that way everybody's not bringing the same issues.
Yeah, they're not talking about the same person.
Right. Everybody's not talking about the lunch worker, or everybody's not talking about the guy at the bus stop. Somebody different from each one. And now it's like, okay, what are you doing at your school? What are you doing over here? Right? And that's something we learned in the military is we would all get together from different places. What are you doing at your base? What are you doing at your base? How are you handling these issues? How are you handling those issues? So it's kind of the same concept. It's just bringing it in and then breaking it down to the smallest form. You know, start something small, vulnerable, tell a story about yourself. We all get to a vulnerable place. Now we're all emotional and vulnerable. There's nothing else to hide. Now let's talk about the real things. What's happening at work, or what's happening at home, right? Because it's not just about work. It's about home as well. We talked about a lot of communication at work, but it also needs to transfer over to home life as well. So if you can't communicate at home, because a lot of people will try to be a way at work and won't be that way at home. It's really about you being the same person all the time. It's not being about, well, I was at work busting my butt all day today, now I want to come home and sit down and relax.
Well, if you're a cop, you can't really do that, don't you?
No, you can't.
You've got to separate it, because you can't come home and treat your wife and your daughter like.
No, dude.
Yeah,
it's not
that
the
might not
treatment,
go
it's
well.
the communication. It's the communication. It's not the treatment. Yeah, you're not coming home. Go get off the printer. You know, yelling about a printer. No, it's the same effort that you put in communicating to make sure everybody understands at work. The same effort you should be doing at home, making sure everybody understands. It goes back to that communication piece. Yeah. If you're fluent with communication, it should be happening with everybody that you communicate with, because it'll start to rub off. There won't be any disagreements, be misunderstandings. I understand. It makes total sense. You got I got mine, and you just go on about your separate way. Nobody's upset. Don't take it personal. It's not an emotional thing. It's not an attack. That's a lot of times with the miscommunications, people feel attacked from something that they're doing. So it's just taking that barrier
mainly from
out of the
D's.
way. Exactly. So that's all it is.
So as part of your services, you have the coaching services, and then this is the added bonus to have these peer groups, which are very curated. So there's a lot of value that I see in that. Do you have a lot of clients that have said no to that part of the program?
To the peer advisory groups? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A lot, because, again, with me not being as a big brand, well-established, people want to see results. Like he asked, well, what's going on in some of the groups that you got? How many people have you had? So if I don't have a big success rate, and there's other people that are out there coaching. So, so I'm just, hey, I'm talented enough to do it. You're giving me the opportunity, but if not, but this is where, I'm focusing the bread and butter over here. And then once making sure those clients are well and they're taken care of, then hopefully, hey, you know what? You got one or two people you're thinking about doing some things with. Let's start this over here. Again, the marketing piece, just kind of figuring it out as it's going along. So.
Well, so going back to like the disc, for the entrepreneurs that are watching and the young business leaders and all of that, what do you recommend are like 3 actionable or 3 key takeaways from this conversation, what they should look at with disc? I know number 1 is probably going to be booking a coaching session with you, but like 2, 3, 4.
No, so honestly, again, it's about knowing what you want. And if you don't know that, then contact me, free consultation. We can have a conversation, and then we can get you guided in the right direction, because you don't want to take the wrong disc test.
Yeah.
I'm not here to sell you a disc test, but you know what I mean? Come with me, let's sit down and have a disc test, and then let's have a debrief, and then we can talk about what you want to do in your future. Because, again, if you don't know, then it's kind of hard to give you a plan for your future.
Right.
Get a vision board, write down some stuff on the board, and then let's talk about it. Let's talk about how to get you there. Get it out of your head, get it on the paper, get it on the board, and then I guarantee you we can figure it out.
All right. Well, that was a quick hour, right?
Yeah.
Like fast.
Oh, it's
All
been
right,
an hour.
Jamaal, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
You can call me, 210-724-4474. You can contact me via my website, realorlive.org, and on social media platforms at Trailblaze.
Not trail, but Trell.
Trail.
Nice. I like that.
All right, thanks, Coach Trell, for coming in. I appreciate that. As we wrap up the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. It's going to be it for this one. How did you think it went, Liliana?
So much fun.
Yeah, good. You had a good time? Love it. Yeah. All right, well, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.